to Insight Magazine. Now, in 1977, an Israeli cargo ship approaching Japan responded to the distress call from a boat crammed with 66 Vietnamese men, women, and children. These refugees were just a small representation of the hundreds of thousands who fled their country after over a decade of war. The Israeli ship picked them up and took them back to Israel, where Prime Minister Menachem Begin authorized their permanent residence and compared their plight to that of Europe's Jews in the 1930s. Well, the integration of these immigrants to Israel represented a significant change of policy, as although they're a small group, they represented the evolving civil identity of the state of Israel, ready to take in non-Jewish refugees. Well, here's their story drawn out of the water by Nimrod Shanit.
On the outside, I'm Vietnamese, but I feel Israeli on the inside. Without Israel, I'd be at sea. I'd be drowned at sea, and I don't know where I would be right now. Okay, kids, what else do you want to eat?
Nothing.
When I married my second wife, she is Vietnamese, and she cooks Vietnamese food. Ever since I arrived, after my family left for the US, and I stayed here on my own with my first wife, there was no Vietnamese food for me. Now it's like going back to my childhood. 3 years ago, I traveled to Vietnam when I presented Herbalife. When my wife heard I was from Israel, she approached me, and it was a match. In the end, we got married. And I feel great now. I feel like I want to return home every day. Unlike my previous wedding. I established this place for my wife because she moved here to Israel, and it's a tough start. She would find it very difficult to find a job because of the language. So I opened up this place for her. Here, she could study Hebrew better.
Papa, can you tell me how you immigrated to Israel?
How I got to Israel? Oh, you're not familiar with Papa's story? You're not familiar with Papa's history? Papa escaped Vietnam. You heard of the war in Vietnam? Did you hear of it? Papa escaped to sea for 7 days. So I was at sea every day. You can't see anything. You know how difficult this is? How scary it is? And when the sea was high, oh wow, very difficult, very difficult. And then I made it here. And finally, if I didn't, where would you be? We were a very rich family. We knew the communists wanted to make everyone equal, and this scared us. In 1977, my brother-in-law was a commando for the Americans. He bought a boat and planned the route to get to it. So we took our chances and ran. If the gods loved us, we would stay alive. We had no choice. We were 66 people on board, and we didn't have enough food. The sea was rough, and all the family, all the kids were scared. Everybody is afraid, not just the kids, because there was a storm. We saw 3 boats sail by, but none of them stopped. They saw us and ran away. And finally, we saw the Yuvali.
I boarded the ship Eshkol and worked the line between Eilat and Japan. It then turned out that my brother worked this line too, aboard the Ofer brothers' boat, the Yuvali. My brother did so. He saw refugees signaling for help and collected them, as he should have done.
We thank God we are alive.
He told me, Amnon, people were waving, you know they will soon drown. So I turned the boat astern and came close. I was very low. There was no need for lifeboats, as they were nearly my level. There were women and children and sick people, so I brought them on board, he told me.
They gave us food, everything we needed. They gave us all the help we needed. Food, water. We knew the boat was from Israel. They asked us if we want to come to Israel. We said yes. We didn't know what Israel was, what type of country. We didn't know.
I entered the port of Keelung, Taiwan, and I saw the Yuvali boat tied up with many people on board. And then all hell breaks loose. A great debate started on what to do with those people. The boat owners, the Ofer brothers wanted the ship to sail as quickly as possible, but the Taiwanese would not let them leave.
The captain called the Prime Minister. It was Begin, and the Prime Minister agrees to grant us citizenship and bring us to Israel.
אנחנו נלווה אתכם בלילה הדרמטי הזה במבצע בחירות 77. כן, גבירותיי ורבותיי.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Israeli television estimates the following results to the 9th Knesset elections. According to our polls, Machal has a landslide victory.
היום חל מפנה בתולדותיו של ישראל.
במאי 1977, כאשר בגין נבחר,
In May 1977, Begin was elected in what was called a turnover.
תוך כדי תהליך הרכבת הממשלה מגיעה למיועד להיות ראש
Along the process of formulating the government, before assuming office,
הושבע כראש ממשלה, הידיעה שאוניית סוחר ישראלית
he receives information that an Israeli freighter ship collected in the Indian Ocean a group of Vietnamese refugees and no Asian country is willing to accept them.
ואף מדינה באסיה לא הסכימה לקבל אותם.
The problem is not in setting an example. It's a matter of life and death. Why must all these questions be posed in these days and time, when people are in the middle of the ocean? If we vote today to bring 300, 400, 500 refugees, we save them. But what about the remaining 69,000 who will be abandoned at sea? They might die. So the problem is not with Israel volunteering. We are willing to welcome hundreds more Vietnamese refugees. We already welcome 2 groups. We have nothing to prove. This simply means that if all countries would each volunteer its share, the problem would be solved.
האסוציאציה הראשונה שלו היא תקופת השואה.
His first association is the Shoah period, when Jewish refugees tried to escape Europe and no country in the world was willing to take them in. The Jewish state was not established for the Jews alone, but also to mark a humanitarian change in the world.
ההומניטרי שצריך להיות בעולם.
You see, this is Israel. Small, very, very small. This is Egypt. And this is Saudi. and Israel again, encircled by all them, and so very, very small.
Is that you? Yes.
Look at me.
This is Ilan and Mom, and that's Mom and me and Karin.
נכון, משפחה. משפחה. יאן, יש לך משפחה בישראל?
לא, משפחה, אני בישראל.
בווייטנאם. What is?
לחם.
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 לחם. טוב מאוד. יופי. כאן, מה זה מתגעגעת? אני מתגעגעת.
אני בישראל, אבל אין משפחה, אני לא לישון.
What is? סכין. 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 What is?
כף.
כף.
And I ask a question, what can you do here? And my answer is, if you want to be honest citizens, and you want to join us in our peaceful life here, you have to learn maybe new ways of living, new ways of behavior, and try to work honestly wherever it is possible to enable your families a good, peaceful life.
An Israeli is like, I don't feel Vietnamese or Russian. I feel Israeli, and it is not important what you look like. You feel Israeli.
Where do I think they are from?
Yes, where do you think I'm from?
You come from Japan?
Try again.
To try again. Sawadee Cup?
No.
Korea?
No.
Ni hao.
No.
What else do I know? Thailand?
No.
China? Philippines? Israel?
Yes, I was born here.
Yes, and yet, what's your country of origin? In Israel, we all came from somewhere else.
Welcome back. Now we're joined in the studio by Nimrod. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you.
So Nimrod, I think we see in this story here, many ships passed the boat by from other countries. It seems that only the Israeli ship actually stopped to pick them up. Is this perhaps representative of the greater Jewish concept of tikkun olam, or to repair the world? What do you think?
I think most of the other ships did not stop by because of commercial reasons. If they would have picked up those refugees, they would have to stop at the port of call. The authorities would not have the refugees leave the boat. The boat would have stayed at the port to find a solution, and they would simply lose business. So many of ships went by knowing that they could pick these people and save their lives, but picked the economical reasons. And I think that maybe the captain of the Israeli boat had something in him which maybe goes back to the Jewish heritage of Tikkun Olam, or maybe it's part of the humane aspect of us being Jews and part of the diaspora. And he did pick up these people and he saved their lives. And this is definitely an example of one of the attempts that Israel has made over the years to show the world that it has a different approach, that it has a very humanitarian point of view, and that it treats people in a very humanitarian manner.
Well, so many of them that were brought here now, how many have actually stayed in Israel after all these years, and what are they doing?
Many of the Vietnamese who've arrived have tried to look for a way to make a living for themselves. One of the first passengers who was on the Yuvali boat was actually a doctor. He saved the life of the daughter of the captain who was on board the boat. And later on, he became a surgeon at the Sheba Medical Center, and later on moved to the US. But many of the other Vietnamese people who arrived to Israel have opened up restaurants, and this is in some way
the influx of Asian culture really since this time. Do you think this incident began that in a certain way?
I think in many ways it does. I mean, if you look back at the fact that a lot of the Vietnamese, Chinese restaurants have opened during the 1980s. You see that a lot of, if you like, the fusion of food, the Israeli food, and the mix of this whole culture has become part of the Israeli society, maybe due to this arrival of these new immigrants to Israel.
Well, possibly the start of a new chapter in relations between the two parts of the world. Well, thank you very much for bringing us the story today, Nimrod.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And thank you for watching us here at Inside Magazine. We'll see you again next week at the same time.